Hello, my name is a unicorn and it's time to wait. In this video I would like to show you a follow-up on our Planesbroken achievement. This is video of us getting Plansebreaker. We did indeed get it by repeating it again. We did not disable add-ons, but I don't think that was the issue there. Anyway, I overlaid the previous video on top of this video to see whether we got faster or better in any fights. And interestingly enough, trash fights are exactly the same, and if we do slow down on one pack, we speed up on the next pack and eventually arrive at Oxil, so pretty much at the equivalent time. So we got to Oxil's door, and you can see in previous run we got to Oxil's maybe a few moments later, but pretty much almost the same time. In here we did few changes because Spolder of Ruin is a thing. We put Spolder on our group healer and I put Symphony instead of Earthcore, and Earthcore is not very useful this patch because it has like 2 seconds delay anyway, so it makes sure the person definitely dies before it tries to heal it. So I'm in Symphony, but the rest of my build is pretty much very similar. I did add a gap closer toppling charge from Templar class skills on my bar to try it out because somebody commented on my previous YouTube video, have you tried that? Does it work? And I did try and it actually works. It makes charges a little bit better, where if you use it slightly later than you usually do, you still get a perfect charge, as opposed to when you start sprinting slightly later, you get a charge where he moves a little bit. So in that sense it makes charges a little bit better, but not by like, it's not like make it or break it difference, but because it's kind of funny and it's kind of class flavored and did make charges slightly better and slightly more consistent, I kept it. What it does requires a little bit of learning curve because it has 22 meter range, and as you know, you sometimes need to be further than 22 meter depending on how your tank's positioning the bosses and what's happening in the fight. So in some cases you need to be prepared to like run a little bit forward and then press the button because it's not activating because you are not in range, and then as you finish the charge it places you on outer edge of Oxil's hitbox, which is not exactly center, so if you stay there he will move. So after the toppling charge is over, you need to still keep pressing the forward button so your tune keeps moving forward and roll dodge then. Otherwise our strat didn't change much, so we just repeated what we were doing before in order to get the achievement. Also, a common question is, can we remorph our combat prayer to the other morph because of the Kinras? And we didn't, because you still need to pre-buff your team with combat prayer before the fight starts, as Kinras has 5 seconds initiation, or even more in case you are a Necro. So because of that we just kept combat prayer, and because of the changes to boss A fight we didn't really see a need in more powerful heal, additional more powerful heal on our bars, so it was not necessary to remorph. Over here you can see that instead of toppling charge, I just ran forward to a safe spot where there is no poisons, because somehow, I don't know if it's the change of patch or maybe I didn't notice it in the past or it never happened to me, but now when you finish your charge and you roll through the poisons, you sometimes get ticks of those poisons and you do die. And so I decided to play safe and execute and not charge, because I don't know where the poisons will be, so stay away from them, because I did die a couple times like that, running through poisons or finishing the sprint in the poison would kill me, whereas before it would never happen, and I don't remember whether it's like patch related or it was always a thing, but like now it is a thing. If you walk through the poisons trying to charge him, you might die. Anyway, so as you saw, the Oxylso find was pretty similar and times were pretty similar to what we had before. This next trash pack is just all the same. Use barrier if you have it. If you don't have it, play safe, spam wall, roll dodge the astral shields, and the builds. I don't think we changed anything here. I think you could incorporate Spolder for trash, but I think we just didn't really think about it, and we were just whatever it was working before, we're gonna keep what we had before. But definitely you could put Spolder in trash on one of the healers, or even on a T, or even on both. But our team didn't really do it, because we were almost there. We just need to repeat it. The time is fine. We don't need to push for more time, so we just changed minimum viable amount of things in order to achieve what we were able to achieve before in terms of damage and in terms of survivability, and rolled with it. I'm gonna let the rest of this fight play out up until we reach Passe. So here we are arriving in Passe, and as you can see, in both the runs we arrive at Passe at very similar time as well, which is great. So we were very consistent in the first half of the trial. So on Passe is where we have majority of the changes, because our tanks cannot sit in mist form. I added Breath of Life on my bar, and we removed one of the Black Rose Restos, because you don't need two of them really anymore. I don't know if you ever needed two of them before either, but we just put I'm in Breath of Life and my co-healer in Black Rose Resto, so she's using the word, and I'm using Breath of Life to keep the tanks alive. We did have to rework our positioning where group stays tighter so that we always can reach our tanks. As you can see, there was some time over there when our main tank was not in range of my heals, and that was very stressful for me at that moment. So we spoke with the team and said, please stack tighter, make sure that you always closer to the Passe so we can reach him with our heals, because they are relying on us as healers to keep them alive, and we have to pump a lot of heals to keep them alive. So because Kinras also is a thing, we don't need to spam as many combat pairs. We still need to use them, but not as many as before to have good uptimes. And so all the GCDs that I was using spamming combat pairs before, I'm now utilizing to Breath of Life main tank instead. We also went through our group composition and realized that we have Necro tank who is holding Passe in Yoln and Worm for some reason, and then we had off tank who is a DK in sacks and PA. And then we were like, why did we do it this way? And then I was in sacks as well. So I was using sacks barriers in previous patch. But in this patch, we just switched it around and we put Worm on me as a healer. And then main tank was in Yol sacks, because now he uses Colossus and we get force from him, which totally makes sense. I don't know why we didn't think about it. Our DK, who is performing a role of off tank here, took off PA and put roll command instead, and both the tanks also put on Master Sword and Board, because it provides insane amount of healing and extra resistance, so it makes their survival much easier. And with all of those changes, so you can see now we're missing MK, PA and Spolder as well. We didn't put Spolder on anybody either. And we still got 6 minutes 18 seconds fight time here on Basse, so it was sufficient for our times and we were able to make a PB times with those changes, so we just kept it that way. Obviously, if you want better times and want to go for more sweatier score, you have to put PA on one of the healers, Spolder on one of the healers, I guess, as well, and maybe on one of the tanks. I don't know how well of idea that is to put Spolder on a tank here, because it's kind of very hard to survive. So, but even without those, like, fight times was sufficient to get the PB. So really, depending on what your goal is. If your goal is faster time, then you can go ahead and sweat a little bit more. If your goal is just to get PB, you could just play a little bit safer. And I don't know, if we were to spend a little bit more time in here, this was very, maybe 2 weeks after the patch when we got it. It was 2 weeks ago. I think I held on to this video for quite a bit, actually. Anyway, so it was like very early into the patch, so I feel if we were to spend more time on this boss, we could optimize better and get better times and play sweatier. But did we want to know after you just get robbed of your achievement in the previous patch? Like, you feel dead inside, all you want is to finish it and get out of the trial. Due to the changes to critical damage cap, our DDs were able to optimize to where we didn't have brittle on anybody at all, and they optimized their critical damage to the amount where they needed to make up for brittle. So that was kind of useful for us, because now you have options. Either you put a brittle den in a group, or you could just, like, every single DD finds a source of additional critical damage and rolls that way. Because it's very hard for tanks to survive here, so I don't know how realistic would it be to ask them to maintain brittle. And some people say brittle dens do a lot of damage in here and they perform very well, which is also very viable strat. You can do that, or you could just, like, optimize to where you don't have brittle and you have a sufficient crit cap, crit damage without it. In terms of monster helms, in previous run I used Earthcore in here, but since the change and the 2 seconds delay to it starting healing after proc, it was very not helpful and HPS from it was very underwhelming. Then I tried Chalkthorn, and Chalkthorn gave slightly more HPS than Earthcore, but Chalkthorn problem is it picks a target when it spawns, so if everybody is at full health when it spawns, for example, it would pick any target and then just stick to that target, and even if the target full health, it will just keep healing it. So it just, for the most part, it was either overhealing me or overhealing my co-healer, and it did connect to a tank couple times, but very little, and it was just, like, very annoying to see that Chalkthorn healing went into nothingness. So eventually I just switched to 2-piece healing done, and so I have 8% healing more from 2-piece healing done monster helm, and rolled with that. I feel like I could have probably just slapped on Spolder instead, but as you can see, we are standing a little bit away from the group for the most part, so I don't know how much times they would get. I would have to play significantly more aggressively and not safe with Spolder, and that would make it, like, harder to get the achievement. Our goal is achievement, not, like, sweaty times anyway, so. And as you can see, we finished the fight here, and on the comparison video from the previous run, we're still struggling in execute because our hands are shaking there. I remember vividly my hands were shaking and I was very nervous and I was playing pretty bad at that point. So and this fight basically is what set apart those two runs. We were playing much more confidently because we already been here and we already got past that fight, and we got past it a couple of times since then. So we were playing more efficiently and more confidently, so we got better times from that. So I will speed up the fight, the trash pack on the comparison video so that we arrive at Ash Titan at the same time. In here, again, nothing really changed. We were doing the same thing as we were doing before, and the sets didn't change, and we still don't have Spalder in this trash either. I don't see any Spalders here, so yeah, I think we don't have it. So we finally got to Ash Titan. On Ash Titan, my setups, I don't think I changed anything, but my setups, I just made sure I have sufficient magicka and I spam additional ice shields so that people survive the kite better because they cannot misform kite. I'm not sure if I knew already this were misform kiting before, but I just decided that I should make sure to spam more of those ice walls so they get the projectile shield. And that's pretty much what my goal was on Ash Titan fight. The Ash Titan outcomes were very similar in both runs. We just kill it before it spawns second set of the rain or kite mechanic and move on to Zalvaka. For Zalvaka, we did similar approach to incorporating Spalder as we did on Oxylzo. We put it on a Roger healer and I put Symphony instead of whatever monster helm I was wearing before. I also removed the quick siphon from my bar since I was not maintaining it very well anyway, and replaced it with Run Focus. I tried Rapids and I was not able to sustain it consistently, so it would be up when it's not needed, and when it is needed it would be down because it's just so expensive. But Run Focus allowed me to focus less on heavy attacking and more on healing, so overall HPS went up just because I didn't have to heavy attack as much to sustain, especially in Execute where a lot of burst healing is needed. I would run out of match quite a bit. With Run Focus I would run out of much less, not heavy attack as much, and therefore be able to output better HPS. Otherwise, not much has changed, so I will just let this play out until the end of the fight. Zalvaka is finally dead and all of my team members are still alive, and that means we got speed run no death. But did we get the achievement? Somebody is quickly checking, and yes, we did indeed get the achievement, and therefore we are Planesbreakers and not Planesbrokens anymore, and we are all happy about it. As you can see, the previous run, Zalvaka fight lasted longer than current run, so we did play more confidently, I guess, and therefore we killed her faster due to better uptimes, higher damage and things like that. Some of it of course could be attributed to change in the meta, but I think because Oxvice was very similar fight times and the other two bosses were drastically different, I think a lot of it is because we just got more experience and played more confidently in those fights. Anyway, congratulations to my team members and thank you for watching and supporting us.